back. I was about to say good morning, and I keep forgetting that it's only morning where I am. Hello, everybody. I'm Abby Haggard. Welcome back to my tiny corner office in the world, high atop a very pretty building on a very sunny day. And I'm very grateful because I was looking at the news a few minutes ago, and it looks like there's going to be some storm damage from Hurricane Erin. And that's kind of, it's sort of predictable because it's that time of year. And yet, every year I'm sure people are saying, maybe this time we'll escape unscathed. Anyway, the reason I wanted to jump in today, there's a couple of different reasons than normal. Normal, of course, is that it's Shoes Day, and every Shoes Day at 10 o'clock, Abbey time, New York time, I come on and I do a video that in some way or shape or form relates to my mentoring process, my coaching concept that is called Pivotry in Motion. Good morning, Freddie. Nice to see you. And when I look away, it's because I can see the comments, in case you thought I was just talking to my desk. One of the most interesting things about today is that it's episode 385. I have been doing these ABCASTs twice a week, almost without fail. We had a couple of setbacks, a couple of healthcare issues with some loved ones, and we had to make those a priority, obviously. Aside from that, I made this commitment. And part of the conversation today is about our different definitions of commitment, our different definitions of what is really a priority. What is our go-to on pretty much any subject? So that's one of the reasons that this is a very special day. 385 and commitment. And the other reason it's very special is that within an increasingly short period of time, the workshops are going to be beginning. They're going to be starting very soon. I wanted to wait until people had decided to make the reluctant trek back from vacation away or just time under the bed, and not in the midst of everybody gearing up and saying, sign up for this, do more, be more, get more. I wanted to be kind of on the median. As long as you're here on the median, you're not blocking anyone's lane. I wanted to be on the median so people are saying, what is she doing there? And that way we would have a connection, you and I. And connection is another important ingredient in the conversation today. Good morning, Kelly. Lovely to see you. So I'm going to take a sip of my warm beverage, and I urge you to join me, whatever it is you have. And I also want to say that I got another notice on the weekend that I had a ton of new people watching on LinkedIn. So you business types, you're all over this. And I'm very, very happy. And I'm very, very pleased to see that there's some sort of a connection, a resonance. And by the way, connection and resonance, that's another couple of keywords for today. So I want to dive right in. And here we go. When we hear all these people talking about energy, soul, and we talk about vibration, and we talk about elevating and raising, and we talk about getting in flow. The interesting thing about these conversations is that everyone is using words that come from electrical conversations, wiring, electricity, positive, negative charge. We're talking about current and currency, and we're using these words in terms of human connection, human interaction, human attraction, and rejection. And in the process of transferring words from one grouping to another, we often get a little bit sideswiped. And while this is all gearing up, people are gearing up, they're coming back, they're unloading all the groceries from the cottage, they're putting all the stuff away for the first time since they left for the cottage or vacation or van life, wherever. I wanted to talk about the transition that we make every time we connect, interact, choose to make a move within our group, within our tribe, within our family, within our culture, within our society. And I want to talk about it in a very, oh my God, why didn't I see that before way, because of a conversation that I had with my creative partner, my producer, Gary, yesterday. Long conversation. And it was based on a random thing I heard. I'd left a video running on my computer, and I got up to go and put more coffee in my cup. And I heard this phrase, and I stopped, I turned around, I came back, sat down, and then watched the video again. Now, this was a therapist. And what this therapist said hit me like a ton of bricks. And it was this: when we hear the expression, they would if they cared, they would if they cared enough, the indication that you have no value, you have no worth, that you don't matter, is the degree to which they care. If you have no worth, no value, no matter to someone, their behavior will reveal that to you. What they do will show you the extent to which they care. And we hear it all the time. And it's difficult in a lot of our relationships, in our business relationships, career, client, romance, family relationships. We wonder why people are dropping the ball, walking away, ghosting us. And we obviously take it personally because it's us they're doing it to. And so when we go for help and we are told, you have to open your eyes and face the facts. If he's walking away, if he didn't call, nobody's that busy. If he didn't call, it's because he didn't want to call. That something else was more important. You have to face the facts. It's not working. Choose you, walk away. These are all of the advice columns, all of the experts, all of the people in the industries engaged in helping you live your best life. And they are all incorrect. Every single one of them incorrect. And I realized it when I heard this woman say this one phrase. I sat down, and when I sat down, I had a moment, because we all deal with this. We all, if we don't live alone in a cave, we all deal with situations in which, why are they walking away? Why didn't they stay? Why didn't they take my call? Why didn't they make the call? Why didn't I get the raise? We wonder that if I did this, and the logical assumption is we get that, and we didn't, we're confused. Survival brain kicks in, wondering how dangerous it was and how we can correct it. And then emotional brain kicks in and starts looking at us if we are the problem. And the fact is, the piece we're missing is not a piece that has anything to do with emotion whatsoever. It has nothing to do with relationship in the way that we perceive it. I hope I have your attention, because you're going to be going, oh, in a couple of seconds. The place I was living for 18 years had something wrong in the way the wiring was done. Because anytime I used the toaster and the microwave, which were far apart, but apparently on the same circuit, the power would go boo, and I would have to go downstairs and reset the breaker and come back up. And I would say to the homeowner, what is it? Well, it's too much load. It's too much electrical demand on the circuit. The circuit isn't strong enough to answer those many requests simultaneously. So don't use the toaster and the microwave at the same time. Okay, but what if I'm making a toasted cheese sandwich to go with my tomato soup? So that was a conversation quite frequently. So the reason I said that, it sounds like a non sequitur, except that it isn't. What this therapist said in her video was, people will behave to the extent of their capacity. The toaster and the microwave are not being rejected. I'm not being rejected. I'm not being thwarted by the universe from having my lunch. There isn't enough current load capacity coming into that building on that circuit to take the combined pressure, the combined demand of the microwave and the toaster at the same time. It can't handle both. It doesn't have sufficient capacity. And so it goes pop and you don't get anything. I could almost stop the video right there, except there's so much more that's interesting to talk about. So the conversation that Gary and I were having was about the kinds of workshops we're going to be doing and the kinds of people who will be drawn to the idea of attending a workshop with us, what it is they are looking for answers to, for, with, and why we are so well equipped to provide them. And one of the things that we talked about was something that is shared by pretty much everybody. If you want results, yes. If pretty much everybody, if they have survived past the age of 5, and that is childhood trauma. Our first trauma is when we are suddenly thrust out of the womb and into the world. Boy, where's a wake-up call. Not only is it suddenly very busy and very painful, but then somebody smacks us on the bum. Thanks. I'm so glad I came. Can I go back? No, I see. The next big trauma is usually if there is some kind of upheaval within the safety of the cave, the safety of the family dynamic. If there is some upheaval, something happens to the people we look to for safety. The next massive trauma, and by trauma, I mean upheaval of everything we know to be true and safe and friendly, is when we are suddenly thrust out of the cave, out of the house, out of the home, and sent off to school, sent off to get on a great big vehicle we've never seen before, surrounded by a bunch of people we've never seen before, to go to a place we've never seen before. And we don't know what we did to deserve it. And what we do frantically when we're at this new place is try to connect with people, to be feeling safe, to create a new tribe. Everywhere we go, we try to create a new tribe, because humans are tribal creatures. We don't know that that's what we're doing, but that's what we're doing. And what we do is we mimic what we had at home, which is dominant, strong decision makers, and we try to be as close to them as possible. The adults in the room are often difficult to identify with, but a strong kid in the room, a strong kid in the playground, a popular kid, that looks like something that could be safe. That's why we start coming home and talking endlessly about whoever that is, and trying to figure out which set of rules we're supposed to follow now. Because we have the new rules at school, we have the new rules on the playground, we have the new rules on the bus, and we also have the rules at home. And we have different people in charge of all those rules in all those places. And it's a lot. And for many of us, it's too heavy a load. And the circuit breaker pops. And we have meltdowns. Some of us are fine. Some of us are wired differently. Some of us stroll through it. Some of us act out. We behave very badly. What we're trying to do is create a safe space. Teach people that you can't mess with me, that I am dangerous if you touch me. That becomes the schoolyard bully. That becomes the workplace bully. All of these things are coping mechanisms. They're coping mechanisms based on circuitry and based on load use. Isn't that crazy? It's electricity, it's current. running through our system. Now, that's one level right there. When you see people who go to HR frequently, when you see people acting out and going to HR and complaining that that person's the problem, that person's the problem. What that does is it takes the pressure off me to do my job because we're all focusing on that person who's the problem. We're diverting the load so that my circuit breaker doesn't pop. As soon as we start using words that equate to electricity, that relate to current, that relate to physics, it's less personal, isn't it? It's less frightening. In some ways, it's less confusing. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. When there's a big storm and a tree knocks a power pole down and it crashes to the ground and a wire becomes exposed, and you're cautioned not to go near the wire, especially if it lands in water, because water is a connected, it's a source of connection. What the electricity is looking for is a place to ground. And if you walk up to it, you're the last place God made. You are the ground. That's why when you see people saying, don't touch metal, wear rubber shoes, don't touch anything metal. If you're caught in a lightning storm, it's because you will be the ground. The lightning will go to you and you'll get the zap. And sometimes the zap is dangerous. What if we change the word lightning to fear? What if we change the word lightning to anxiety, curiosity, confusion, exhaustion, joy, love? What if we change the electrical terms and words and put in emotion words instead? What if, so I'm the eager bouncing puppy, and I reach out and I say, hey Spike, want to go to the zoo? Hey Spike. And the Spike I'm talking to says, nah, or nah. And bouncing Chester Abbey jumps up and says, oh, okay, Spike, no, you wouldn't want to go to the zoo. No, who would want to go to the zoo? Hey, how about if we go and watch the, no. I'm trying to create connection. I am the charge. Spike is the resistor. Spike is the surge protector. Spike is the block that does not allow the electrical charge to come through and overload the circuit and pop the breaker. How about that for a different analogy in terms of a relationship? If he cared, he would. What if he couldn't manage the capacity in this moment? How long does it take to text? It takes no time at all. Then why didn't you text? I was overwhelmed. By what? I'm too overwhelmed to explain it. We can choose to believe or disbelieve. However, if we say there has been a lot of stress, there has been a lot of activity, there has been a lot of confusion, there has been a lot of upheaval, probably space is what is needed. And I can go and be Chester with my other friends. I can give Spike and his surge protector time. Because when the capacity scare, when the capacity emergency is over, then we will know, then we will find out if underneath all of that, there is interest, there is care. And if there isn't, then it's up to us. And here's how it's up to us. Again, the way we're advised is incorrect. We're advised to say there's plenty of fish in the sea, da 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 da. This is not what people do, though. People hang on to possibility. People hang on to invested equity. People hang on to sunk costs. We see it all the time in business. We see it all the time. I did it once, and it cost me a lot when I refused to let the thing go, because I kept saying, it just needs. And what it just needed was for me to stop. And when I finally had to stop, it all came crashing down. Bigger, harder, more painfully, because I had kept going. What is it that we can do for ourselves? What is it that we can do for, I just have to click this. I have block list. There we go. What is it that we can do for ourselves and for each other when our outreach is met with some sort of resistance, some sort of surge protector? We have choices. And one of the choices we make when we hang on and hang on and hang on is what happens when we keep using our device, our system, when we clearly have a warning sign that the battery is low. We clearly have a warning sign when we're driving the car and the marker says you're on empty. You're driving on fumes. What happens when you don't have the physical energy, the physical reserves? You said you were going to run the race, but you stayed up late last night because, for any number of reasons, this morning you were not rested. You enter the race at less than full capacity. How well are you going to do? What kind of outcome are you going to have? What kind of result, what kind of surge are you going to have at the finish line? All the people cheering you on can't restore your energy if the reserves are depleted. If you care passionately and you know that the other people care passionately, you can see it, you can feel it. They tell you, and yet they don't show up. They don't deliver. They don't do the things you know they have the capability for. And you stand there and say, what is wrong with this picture? Did I not make it clear? And they say, you did. Then somewhere along the way, the translation failed. Somewhere along the way, my definition and their definition missed each other by a mile. I had an argument many years ago now with someone who had agreed to work on a project with me. And if you've ever seen me in person, if you've ever seen me dealing with things that go off the rails because somebody wasn't paying attention, you can anticipate and enjoy with me my reaction to this next thing I'm going to tell you. The telephone meetings that we had in order to brainstorm the content for this project could only begin at 11 o'clock my time. And I kept saying, can't we do this earlier? And he kept saying, unfortunately, no. I'm really sorry, but unfortunately, no. And finally, one day he said, and unfortunately, I can only be on the call this time for this many minutes because I have to go and do such and such. And I said, well, if you have to go and do such and such, why can't we make an exception and get on the call earlier so we can get the work done? He said, I'm sorry, no. And I thought, okay, fine. One day shortly after that, I said, I'm going to ask, what is it that prevents you from getting on the call before 11 o'clock consistently? And he said, wait for it, well, I like to watch my reruns of the Golden Girls. And immediately, without pausing for a sip of a beverage, I went up like a bottle rocket, all the way up, across the top, and down the other side. And after I had stopped doing my world famous imitation of a windmill, much to his enjoyment, because it was a video call, I said, can't you tape them? And he said, oh, sure. It's not the same. I said, it's not live. He said, no, but it feels like it. Okay. So very shortly after that, our partnership came to an end. Quelle surprise. And when he said, I don't understand why. And I said, because this project doesn't matter enough to you to make it a priority. It doesn't matter enough. And he said, well, it matters enough to me. And I said, then how is the Golden Girls more important? He said, because it's my thing. And as I reviewed that conversation of many years ago, when I was prepping for the video today, and obey the warning signs, yes, yes. When to let go of hope. Good morning, Miss Marnie. How are you? When to let go of hope. Hope is a good word. I don't think it's hope though. I think it is perception, and I think it is a lack of communication context. Because when I said to him, this is a project that is present and future. The Golden Girls is past. And he said, oh, I've never really left the past. Now, if I had known that going in, I probably wouldn't have even started the project. I wouldn't have ended up with the outcome that I have. I wouldn't have learned the life lessons that I did. I wouldn't have this story to tell you today. And so, to a certain extent, there is deep value in that moment of incredulity on my part, and him having no idea what was wrong with me. What's the big deal? The big deal is how passionate and immediate the project is for me. And so where the flaw was when we are using these terms of electrical current was that we were not wired the same. We did not have the same capacity. One wasn't better than the other. They just weren't compatible. I don't know if you've ever traveled to foreign countries where they have different currents and circuits. When I was a kid, my dad was in the military, and we went to Europe. We had a transformer, and you would plug your appliance, hair dryer, whatever, into the transformer and plug the transformer into the wall. And inside the transformer, something magical happened, and you didn't toast or melt your appliance, unless, of course, like me. I said, oh, look, I can plug the transformer in the lower one, and I can plug the hairdryer into the top one. And I could, in fact, but I didn't like the outcome. So if we do not know, if we have not had that aha, if the math for me had never quite mathed correctly until yesterday, then I would have continued to not understand why it was so frustrating and hurtful to me and lonely to find myself in relationships that felt like people simply did not care. Did not care. By their actions, they do not care. By their actions, I have no value to them. I am not a priority. I am not someone they are prepared to step up for. And that goes all the way back to my childhood trauma of my parents. It goes back to all of our traumas with all of our people who we grew up believing behaved the way they behaved because we were not worthy of more. And we carry around with us our imposter syndromes, and we carry around with us our insecurities and our quiet, private rage against the loneliness and the injustice of it when we're doing our level best. To recognize yesterday, for the first time, that it is not anything like that. It has to do simply and purely with capacity. And all the other words that we use, all the other terms that come to bear. You know, when you have expensive electronic things plugged in, you get a surge protector. You get a surge protector so that if there is a boost of current that comes into the building for any particular reason, your expensive electronic devices are protected against. So we don't end up being fried in the ocean by a lightning strike. A surge protector is what a lot of us have without realizing it, to act as a buffer. A lot of us need a surge protector because we are too vulnerable and too raw, and all of our little nerve endings are too exposed. I had a lot of difficulty in show business. I needed surge protectors, and I didn't have them. And so there were a lot of ups and downs and disappointments, a great high of success, and then something hideous crash, start up again. I needed to learn how to navigate that. I needed to lean into my Viking ancestors to figure out how to be ready and brace myself so that every time the wave hit, I didn't fall out of the boat. Because a lot of the time I did fall out of the boat. And it is a testament to my stubbornness that I kept getting back up, carrying a spare towel with me at all times, and getting back in the boat and saying, I'm still walking here. But it was painful for me. I didn't know that there was a way to protect me. And in my conversation yesterday with Gary, we were talking about the ways to have this conversation in our upcoming workshops. Sit down with someone and walk them back through the minefield of where the first assumption happened and every ripple, trickle down effect after that, to give them a sense of clarity, to give them permission to receive a healing hug, that it was never about them. It was simply current capacity. And another analogy is, I was looking for different kinds of words to talk about, and I remembered that line from Back to the Future, the flux capacitor. And it had never properly been defined, but what it is really, in order to time travel, in order to jump, what you needed was this mythical device that boosted the power that allowed you to jump time. We have flux capacitors. I accidentally use mine all the time. And I'm going to tell you exactly when it happens because you have it too. You know, when you're on the phone with somebody, or you're in person with somebody, or you're out in nature somewhere, or you're watching a movie, and it's completely captivating. It's completely transforming you. You're completely absorbed. You're completely caught up in it. You're working away at something. And you, I don't know, sneeze, cough, need to go to the bathroom. You look up at the clock and you feel that when you look up, no particular sense of the passage of time. You look up, and instead of being a few minutes, it's several hours. I often find that when I'm writing, I'll suddenly think, God, I'm hungry. Why am I hungry? And I look up, and I'm hungry because it's 6 o'clock at night, and I haven't eaten anything since breakfast because I fell down a rabbit hole. That's a flux capacitor. That is you so heavily caught up, engaged in, connected with the flow of creativity that you just boost through, zoom through, override all the normal inhibitors. When you see resistors on telephone wires, resistors are up there for the same reason that you have a surge protector in your house. They are to maintain, to stabilize the flow on the off chance that at the source it goes whoop. All of this is all around us in life. Unless we live somewhere off in a forest, in a cave. Now, the thing about it is, we don't need to go to a forest in a cave to experience it. Because we are energy. We are connected. We engage with the world around us. We engage with each other and our thoughts and our emotions and our trigger mechanisms from our subconscious brain to our nervous system to release hormones and to release signals to tell us what to do. That's current. Right? It's current. And when something terrible happens, when something devastating happens, and we go into freeze mode, that is the body imposing a surge protector to keep our essential selves safe. When somebody's seriously injured, the danger is that they go into shock. If they go into septic shock, it can kill them. The body doesn't understand. The body is trying to shut you down to protect you from something. If it keeps shutting you down, eventually it succeeds. So the monitoring has to be very careful to maintain you in a safe space so that you don't come up too soon and you don't go down too far. There is a condition that we've all been in for quite a while now, most recently, and it is now referred to as functional freeze. Our emotions are numb. We have brain fog. We have no physical energy or enthusiasm for anything. We are going through the motions. We are phoning it in, but we're still getting up in the morning and putting on our pants and going to do the thing we do because we believe we must. We believe that our survival depends on it. And whether it's true, the fact that we believe it to be true makes it true. That is also currency. That is also capacity. You hear stories of a mother seeing a child pinned under a car, and you've seen video of these people lifting something that they are completely physically unable to lift in order to rescue that child, in order to rescue that animal, in order to effect rescue. What is that? That's a power surge. That's Capacity. Pushed to its max? Absolutely. Does the mom or dad have to sit down for a while after that? Oh, yeah. So here's what I want to talk about right now with you as we pass the 40-minute mark on this video today. One of the workshops that Gary and I are creating, they're all, by the way, based on the themes of success and resilience. They're based on the fact that success is a process, a series of steps repeated over time. And resilience is the product of that process. When you go to a gym, when you get ready and you get yourself in shape good enough to go to training camp, what you are doing is you are building the building blocks of success and resilience so that when you are tested at training camp, when you are tested in the game, when you're tested on the stock exchange floor, when you're tested in your business, in anything in life, you have the capacity to meet the challenge. You have the capacity to leverage change. You have the capacity to reach your goal. These are the workshops that we're doing. They are predicated on the concept of pivotry and motion. Pivotry is the shift in your decision making. It is the shift in your belief in yourself. It is the shift in your letting go of resistance and claiming readiness. You can't pivot, you can't move, you can't change, you can't grow until you decide you can. Until you decide you are. Until you say, let's do this. Until you say, you know how I used to say it's not that bad? I'm done with that. It was that bad, and I deserve more. I deserve better. I have a greater capacity for living than I had allowed myself to use. I was operating in the lowest gear possible. And I am capable of so much more. I am capable of desiring more, enjoying more, delivering more, receiving more. All of this language is about physics. All of this language is about electricity and current and capacity. All of this language is about the way the world works. And when we get caught up in the victim mindset, when we get caught up in looking back and looking back and looking back, we're not only not using our capacity, we're not even plugged in. We got a dead phone over here. That's why we can't receive or send any messages. It is our decision to say, this is mine today. And those are the workshops that we're doing. Those are the workshops we're beginning. One of the workshops that's really going to be fun, all these job fairs, all of these, come for job interviews, all these new opportunities. One of the workshops that I do is how to ace the job interview. One of the workshops I do is how to never, ever, ever experience stage fright again in your entire life. How do I know that? Have you seen my career? How do I know that about the job interviews? Have you seen my career? Do I know what I'm talking about? I'm the poster child. That's how I know what I'm talking about. Our workshops are fun. Our workshops are challenging. They're fun. There's a lot of laughter. There's a lot of humor. It is 100% human and humanity and recognition and resonance and reward. And if we take out of the equation, why don't they like me, mommy? And instead we say, why are they looking over there? I'm right here. When we take out of our conversation and our memory a parent, a well-meaning teacher or friend, or somebody just with full of spite, you'll never amount to anything. You might as well give up now. and save all of us the misery of watching you fail. That is the language of someone whose wiring is squirting all over the place. Zert, 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 zert. Why don't you look after your own self? Why don't you take care of your own business? In the middle of a terrible, terrible thing that happened to me because I wasn't paying attention. So I'm the one who stepped on the live wire. It was a live wire. It was dangerous. I didn't see it, and I stepped on it. Boy, did I learn a lesson. I had a very good friend in the industry reach out to me and say, okay, this is terrible for you. Remember why it's happening. It's not happening to you. It's simply happening. You happen to walk in front of it. That's not why I'm calling. I'm calling because your determination, your passion, your consistent showing up has resulted in a lot of current and currency and attention and energy flowing to you. And there are a lot of people out there with less capacity, less willingness, less determination, who resent it. And you need to know that they are not going to be supporting you in this moment. They may even be celebrating. And I said, well, thanks for that. And she said, no, you need to know. You need to know that there are more than one live open wire fizzling around. Watch your step. It's not about you. It's about them. It's not about emotion. It's not about loyalty. It's not about connection, compassion, humanity. It's about capacity. And I have been grateful to that woman ever since. I was having this amazing conversation with Alan Morissette a few months ago. Alan and his wife, Georgia, are the fabulous parents of Alanis. And Alan said that when she just got started in the business, he sat her down and he wanted to protect her as best he could. And he knew that he would never be able to in person because she would be, once her trajectory took off, he would only be able to send, but not hold. And he said, there are going to be three kinds of people that you're going to come into contact with all the time. One kind of person is going to love everything you do no matter what. They're the complete, unconditional, forever fan. They will love everything you do no matter what, which means that they're not really a good person to ask, how was the show? Because they'll say it's wonderful, whether it was or it wasn't. It's lovely to have them. Don't rely on them for reality, though. Listen to your own inner person. He said, then there are going to be people who hate everything you do no matter what. And it's got nothing to do with you or your talent. It's got everything to do with them. Because they come to the moment full of all kinds of fizzling, out of control energy. It's their incapacity to delight in someone else's success. So don't ask them how the show was, because you won't get the answer that is helpful from them either. And he said, and the third group are people who come because they have a vested interest. They want to see how it's going. They want to remember when. They have a discerning nature, and they're going to tell you when you ask them on a scale of 1 to 10. And that is not the largest section of the group. They are to be treasured. The person you listen to most is your own inner intuition. Then listen to them. And make sure you have a trusted advisor who has the intelligence and the perception and the capacity to guide you well. And I, when he told me that, I said, well, where were you when I, when I needed it? And he said, I don't know. I don't know where it came from because they weren't in show business. He said, I just knew that she had to see, she had to have the capacity to see who these people were, what these energies were, what they were bringing and taking away from. Because alternating current, by the way, there's direct current, which is in one direction. Alternating current is current that comes and goes. In the language of human interaction, when I walk out on a live stage, the electricity, the chemistry, the flow is dynamic and constant and ever present. You know, when we did Fanaticon this year, the local fan event, I get myself into, I get my adrenaline at the right place. I've learned how to do it. And then I'm good all day. And I'm there all day. I'm there for the people. Without the people, it's a rehearsal. And that's one of the other workshops I'm going to teach. Gary's going to be able to bring the military perspective to that one. How do you maintain? You figure out how to manage your surge protectors. You figure out how to manage your adrenaline flow. You figure out how to pace yourself. That's the other thing I'm going to teach. So those are just 3 of the early in the fall workshops we're going to be running, because people come back from the holidays and they feel, you know, you never forget how to ride a bicycle. Yeah. Here's what you never remember. You never remember how hard it is to get back on after a long time off. You forget that you have to get your balance instincts back. You have to wake up your muscle memory from its long hibernation. That part of the learning curve comes as a surprise. We teach that too. So as I've been saying and hinting all along, something big is coming and we want you involved. At this point, something big is arriving and it's all about you. It's with you, for you. It is my currency of communication with you. My ancestors were Vikings. Vikings had a couple of extraordinary skills. They were storytellers. And they told brilliant stories because they didn't have a written language. They had runes, which is basically turn left. Don't go there, bog. They had an extraordinary ability to build boats that had an unusual flexibility and resilience that allowed them to cross the ocean and carry great quantities of things there and back. And biggest of all, well, they also were pretty good at fishing. They had the best hooks. But most important of all, they were navigators. They had an extraordinary and intuitive ability to find their way and to listen when energies and currents and winds and waves and hidden obstructions got in their path. They learned to be resilient and flexible. They had the determination to keep on keeping on. And what they did, as my very, very patient, long-suffering Viking friend so often says, they understood that they had to be very careful who they chose to get in the boat. Because if they didn't have the capacity, then they weren't rowing. They were drag. They were barnacle buddies, slowing them down. There's a young lady who's world famous now for her ability musically and professionally and marketing-wise. And she recently said, and is now quoted everywhere you see it and turn around, treat your energy as though it is a luxury item. Not everyone has the capacity to afford it. Treat your energy as a luxury item. Give it away strategically. If you are giving it away compulsively, then something is wrong with the wiring scheme. Because if you give it away when somebody finally wants toast and some tomato soup for lunch, there's nothing left to heat them up. We have tremendous value. The people who love us, who are coming into our lives, who see our value, who gravitate to us because of what we bring and how we regenerate and share what we bring. They will find us. The people we decide we love, who have something going on that they can't show up, that's their capacity issue. If they cannot accept our help, then we get to choose whether to keep pushing, or give them room. I saw a thing the other day. Have you ever noticed that when the remote isn't working, you push the button more times? You don't look to see if you need to change the battery? As they say in science fiction language, resistance is futile, except when it saves your life. Capacity is part of our currency. How much we have, how much we can spare, how much we need is in flux all the time. You are loved. You are high vibration. You matter. It's your currency. Thank you for watching. When you watch, this works. This matters, and it becomes energy. And our capacity is in flow. How about that? Said the word girl. I'll see you on Thursday. Remember to be good to you. Remember to hug your loved ones. You deserve it. Thanks for watching.